Guys, welcome back to the open. No, it's not called the Open Door Podcast. What was I going to say? I was going to say a stock name. The Outsider Insider Podcast with your hosts, myself, and the other host. Show me your guns, buddy. We always start this off
Funny,
right.
that's funny.
Second Amendment right, freedom speaker Ahmed. You might recognize him from the Forbes list. He's usually up there, top 28th richest person in the world now.
Yes,
Yeah, man. So
I'm
he's
about
he's
like
made a good career for himself.
19th position, 18th and a half
Now, buddy, you're
sometimes.
going
So
after the 17th person, right? That guy, watch
yeah,
out. Okay, watch out. So, Ahmed, to go past our first episode, did actually pretty fantastic. I was very proud of ourselves. I think we did great. There was a couple of switches that we're going to do just to make this podcast a little better. And again, if you guys have any even better recommendations, please leave it in the comments. If you guys want to say some bad slurs to us, that also works. All right, I don't know if YouTube's going to allow it, but I'd be happy to get the comment. All right, so Ahmed, let's start us off, man. How are you looking at the markets?
welcome again, guys. I think we should start with talking about Donald Trump and his recent tariffs on steel and aluminum, and some hikes, some interest rate cuts, interest cuts. Not
Yeah, well,
uh,
let's
yeah,
start off right there. So, of course, Mr. Donald J. Trump, upset with our Mark Carney's of the world. Even though I don't think it was Mark Carney who gave the ad out, it was our boy from Ontario. But regardless, your boy was triggered, so he said he's gonna drop on another 10% tariff, and it's probably not going to be on the USMA compliance stuff. It's probably going to be again on the steel and aluminum. And to be honest, Ontario sector is pretty much the only big sector that's dealing with all the steel items, so they are getting impacted heavily. It's not really affecting us down here in Alberta too badly at this moment in time. But adding an extra 10% is probably going to destroy the market again. They're already talking about a lot of job losses already, so we'll see exactly how it goes, right? Am I worried? Being in Alberta, I'm not too worried. But I think it goes to see exactly where you have your position, right? Where you guys have your jobs. Because if you have your jobs in Ontario and they're steel based, like bro, I'm very sorry to hear that. If you work at a steel mill, like you're kind of getting a little cooked right now, right? So your employer is thinking about moving to the USA so they don't have to deal with the tariffs, and you're probably thinking, how am I supposed to make a living? But I want you guys to understand this is, and don't mind my family in the background if you can hear them, but a lot of these problems are temporary. And I know they may seem like they come forever, but there's always going to be a reason why there will be problems. Like, for example, if you just think about 4 years ago, Ahmed, what was the big issue in the world? COVID. Nobody was going to work
mhm,
either that way, right? So,
mhm.
although there's a lot of stuff that's going to be really effective, like a lot of people might lose their jobs, this is the best time in history to develop skills. Now, obviously, we actually don't even have any courses to offer you, nor do we have any links to promos. But man, you can learn anything online, and it's definitely time to learn up a better skill. So that's what I would be doing to deal with these tariffs, right? Because the truth of the matter is this: no matter who you are, unless you're Mark Carney, unless you're working for the provincial and federal government, there is not anything you can do to help deal with tariffs. That's the problems outside your control. I don't look at this administration's, I don't look at next administration's, the last administration's. It does not matter to me. It doesn't matter if it's Mark Carney in office, doesn't matter if it's Pierre Poilievre, it doesn't matter who is in office, because at the end of the day, you do what is in your direct control. And if you're smart, you know that nothing is in your direct control, so you need to be ready for any sort of situation. That's what I would say about tariffs. What do you think?
So what I would add to what you just suggested to our viewer is we're trying to build a community of like-minded individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and I think your comments will be highly valued, and we're going to read every single one of them and see what kind of changes I think would align with this community's what they want.
Yeah.
And because me and Rav are accredited investors, we understand that we have a global reach rather than a just a we're not limited only to Canada.
Uh huh.
Um, Having access to the U.S. stock market has obviously allowed you to
Big
have more of
boom.
a globalized thesis and a globalized reasoning around investing based off of the narratives that we're talking about.
Of course, of
And I
course.
think I think that viewers would value this kind of pre-context that you do not have to operate on a local um, area. Like one of my fascinations, one of my obsessions is watching innovation within the crypto space and this
Mm-hmm.
idea of decentralization. Although I completely find it rubbish, idea that Bitcoin's decentralized and it's disconnected from this the economic framework of thinking,
I'm
like
gonna pull your internet
disconnected
plug.
from the
Okay, you're gone.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they even have reasoning with like PCs. They say that if the PC if you were to turn off the PC on one end PC, the blockchain would still be operating on other PCs that are in all sorts of theories, like there's like a Faraday thing where if you EMP like a certain area, the computer will stay on.
Mm-hmm.
Like these super um people, they don't play devil's advocate,
Mm-hmm.
and they're super pro. Oh, I'm right. I'm so right, and I've been right since 2008, since I bought Bitcoin at 10
Mm-hmm.
cents. You're gonna be right up until you're gonna be wrong, and you gotta be
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah, probability of
And
anything,
so
right?
the one thing that I've learned through my buddy here, Ravinder, and we have a lot of talks, and we want to obviously want to share this with the viewer, is that you want to have a diversification when it comes to what you're invested in. You do not want to invest just in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
because these tariffs will probably hurt your business.
Yeah,
Especially,
very
I
true.
have a friend. I have a friend who was into disc brake manufacturing. And when the Trump tariffs hit, he told me he didn't tell me all the details, empiricism. But he told me that his company actually saw a decline because he relies on Chinese manufacturing to get disc brakes into Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And when these tariffs hit, they're out of the blue. Like even the market liquidated trillions of dollars when
Yeah, since
this guy
April, yeah.
Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And so what? Just to reiterate what you said earlier, you want to be diversified and you want to be on a globalized scale. You want to think like a globalist.
Mm-hmm. I like the diversification process. It definitely is something you have to agree on. Like I have my business here in Canada, so obviously I'm reliant a lot on the Canadian market. But I'm going to tell you something that not a lot of people talk about, and that's how you investing into Apple is actually making you a globalist. And I'm not talking about in the sense of globalist on any sort of political scale. I'm just talking about a globalist in terms of investing. When you
I agree
buy,
with that, and that's what I
yeah,
implied as well.
well, yeah,
Mhm.
when you
Carry on.
buy Apple stock, when you buy Samsung stock, when you buy Nvidia, when you buy AMC, or not even AMC, but like when you buy any sort of big company, you have to understand something. Very rarely are they just concentrated in the USA. They're concentrated all over the world. For example, the minerals companies in China, or BYD, or Tesla. Like these companies sell globally. Have you not seen that in their share numbers? They always talk about how their Europe markets are doing, how their Asian markets are doing, how their African markets are doing, how their Canadian economy is doing, how this. It's because all these companies do not rely on the USA. They rely on the world. And so I think a lot of people get the diversification process wrong. You don't need to be diversified outside of the USA to be diversified in the world, because every company relies on everywhere. Apple does not just rely heavily on the USA market. That's their biggest market, but guess what? Almost 60% of the rest of their revenues come from out of USA, outside of USA. So now you have to think about that in a smart scale. So what can you be doing in order to invest for your future? And that is just investing. Now, as a Canadian, I can invest in my Canadian stock market, and then I can also invest over there in the States. And if you really want to like invest just in China, you can buy emerging market ETFs. Like stuff like that exists. BlackRock even sells it. So it's not hard to get exposure. And these are ways that you can make it so that you're not in the direct wrath of what one administration wants to do. Because again, political points aside, political views aside, in 4 years, something is going to drastically be different. And are you going to tell me that every 4 years your philosophy is going to change? That's not how philosophy works. Philosophy is something that's not just a sit in, that should be grown upon over time. But it shouldn't be like, okay, I'm building a mountain. Let me take away all the dirt first, and let me put the dirt back. It doesn't mean I put a different set of dirt in. You can't just keep doing that. You have to pile on pile on pile. I know for a couple of facts, Apple, regardless of if Trump's in power, if Biden's in power, if Obama's in power, are going to be selling iPhones. I can promise you they'll be selling iPhones. Can you agree on that, Ahmed?
Yeah, I think you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
earlier that they're the first company to reach $1 trillion valuation,
Goes
and
Apple, yeah.
having such a, and I feel like there's a certain point where you stop assessing a company on the basis of its value proposition to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
You start to assess it on the macro scale, where uh, the government that's holding that. Because I talked about this earlier in the last video, where Oracle makes a huge move,
Mm-hmm.
and they're moving huge amounts of liquidity that they directly correlate with the value proposition of the U.S. dollar itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because that the stock market within the U.S. Like reflects the value within the United States of America, and
Mm-hmm.
their What I'm saying is the governmental organization begins to have value tied into those companies when they reach such large market caps, because
Uh-huh.
it the electric car industry is not something small. Where for example, what I'm trying to explain here is during the 2008 market crash, there was rules and regulations the government imposed so that super large entities would not over risk,
Mm-hmm.
because there would be butterfly effects of catastrophic.
Of course.
The cat. And I think I agree with Rav. And one of the things that Rav you've mentioned earlier is Microsoft. Bill
Yeah,
Gates.
I know
I
exactly what you want to say.
definitely agree. I definitely agree with you. I don't trust Trump because he's up, down, left, right.
Mhm,
But I do understand that when Larry Ellison makes an action, not a word, I don't listen to what they say. You got to watch what they do.
mhm,
When they start to allocate money into infrastructure, that it just makes sense for me to put a narrative on that. And
mhm.
what you're saying, Apple, I think Apple is so widespread and their margins are so juicy
Amazing,
that
amazing.
with yeah, there's people that are obsessed with it beyond the value that it brings within its utility.
Uh-huh.
Just it's like a community of
It
some
is,
sort.
but yo,
I'm
you,
not an Apple fan. I'm
uh-huh.
not an Apple fan, but I see the value.
Yeah, and even outside of Apple, let's talk about Microsoft. I love how you brought them into it. And let's not even talk about Microsoft. Let's talk about Amazon. What happened just a few days ago with Amazon Web Services? One
Really,
company went down. One
yeah.
company went down. And what happened? Over the world, there was problems. Over all of the entire world. This is not just a USA issue. A USA company had a data issue in one of their plants in the USA and affected the entire world. That's how globally diverse we are. So again, the main things you got to remember: get more skills. You can never stop gaining skills, guys. The moment you stop trying to gain skills, you're putting yourself in the wrath of whatever's ahead of you. All right. And so I
Mhm.
feel it. Trust me, I feel it for all of my people in Ontario who are about to lose jobs, who are getting jobs. But like, it's not just you. What about Meta? I mean, sorry, not just Meta. What about Amazon? Did you see the letter that came out for Amazon?
Mhm. Mhm.
They're planning on firing 15,000 blue white collar workers. It's not just the blue collars that are going away, but in unreleased press stuff, so stuff they got kind of behind the scenes, they're talking about getting rid
Mhm.
of their blue collar staff as well for robots. Amazon, yeah, and I don't care if you
Well,
don't think that
I
they're,
have a question.
yeah, yeah,
I have a question before we skip top or switch topics. Do those white collar jobs get affected by? Is it because of AI?
AI. But
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
tell I want to speak on a few things
There's
because
two
yeah,
there's two perceptions that I want to further expand on what
uh-huh.
you've just stated, and
I,
I think that
I'll
the
uh,
viewer
I'll
would
finish
value that.
off this
Yeah,
tip and then I'm very curious to see what
yeah.
you're
Go
gonna
ahead.
say.
I'll
But
come back. We'll come back to it.
yeah,
Yes.
but that's what I'm talking about. I'm just saying it's not just steel who's gonna have problems. It doesn't matter if you just have tariffs. People who literally might be the smartest people in the entire world who are working at Amazon are now gonna get laid off. Engineers, you're talking about a lot of white collar jobs, right? It's not blue collar stuff, and so everybody's going to have the same problems. But the only way for you to keep yourself advanced in the economy and to give yourself value is by learning as many skills as you can, whether it's a second language, third language. And again, we have nothing to sell you. I'm just giving you real tips. If I want to be a better Canadian and I want to have more opportunity here in Canada, I should learn French. Because if I do, I'm so much more ahead of my competition. But now, guys, one thing I want to talk about the Amazon thing before we brush past that. Do you know in Amazon, here's the thing that I don't think people understand. So I was telling you about all the people that they're laying off, and that's a lot of people that are laying off. I think they're planning on laying
How
off.
many jobs you said?
I think it's
You know how
fifteen
many
percent
jobs?
of the entire workforce.
That's substantial.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about a company with over hundreds of thousands of employee of people, right? But so here is something I wanted to tell you guys. I'm starting to have a little stress with Amazon because I actually think this has a direct correlation on how much you're spending on AI. I think it's not just going to be that AI is so advanced right now that it's going to take over the jobs. I'm thinking it's like this because they have to quarterly, give earnings. They have to do other stuff. I'm afraid that Amazon might be pushing a lot of money into AI, and the only way they can justify their spend is by taking money away from another portion of their business, which I think they're going to do by cutting salaries of tens of thousands of employees because it's going to save them a lot of money that they can reinvest into their web services. Because AWS is more than 50% of Amazon's total revenue. So although they're a shipping company, their web services division is doing insane. The same thing with Microsoft Azure. Do you know Microsoft Azure? It is the fastest growing product that Microsoft offers. It's their cloud servicing, and so every
Mm.
company, like whether it's Oracle, they have their version of it. And Oracle, it's only 3% of the market right now. Most of it's Amazon Web Services. AWS is the majority of it, and then Azure is right behind there. It's so there's so much money in that division. It's crazy. The growth is rapid, and so but again, my thesis here is I think Amazon, although I love Amazon, I'm not going to be selling my stock in Amazon. I do think that they are probably realizing that they need a lot more liquidity than they have. And so instead of borrowing money, what they're going to do is they're going to cut fat in order to provide more muscle to their muscles. You understand what I'm saying? More protein to their muscles.
Uh, just adding on to
That's
the
just a
topic that
theory.
you
That's just a
mentioned
theory.
earlier,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think that liquidity is going to be obviously the number one priority for businesses and banks themselves. Liquidity is probably one of the biggest problems that we see on any market in any market.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that popped up, just me remembering, I read a news article probably back in 2023, where I think that even within this conversation, it aligns with a thesis of mine
Mm-hmm.
that I want to share as well. I think that there's definitely a Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3
Mm-hmm.
conversation here. And what I mean by that is Web 1 was access to information. Web 2 was access to basically you're sending emails, you're purchasing products. It's a third vector to something that has, or like let's say a second vector
Mm-hmm.
of consideration of complexity. So first one is simple, is just reading from the library, um, like accessing the internet. That's Web 1. Web 2 is Amazon in its holistic sense, not only the web service, but the shipping company, the one that. And I honestly, before this conversation, because I don't think we've covered this, me and Rev, I didn't know that much of the value sat in not the shipping side, like the narrative of we take
Yeah,
boxes and ship them to you, but in web services. I didn't know that was the huge
it's insane.
high reliance.
Yeah, if you look at Microsoft's numbers, wait till you see the Azure division. I'm talking about
Yeah.
like a 20 to 30% growth per year. It's insane how fast it's growing.
Is it because of what? What's the need of the consumer that
It's
they're
it's
going at that?
it's all web services. So it's data centers. It's here's another statistic.
I just thought Oracle was the dominant.
No. They're only
You said
3% of the market, man.
3%.
AWS
I
and
didn't know.
Azure is way more.
Then
But
why is this guy Larry Ellison such a high net worth?
so Larry
Why is
Ellison owns a
Oracle such a
good
huge? I
portion of.
don't.
He owns a good portion of Oracle, but Oracle does more than just web services, right? They offer a lot of products, so they offer a lot.
Data.
Yeah, they offer a lot. But again, they're one of the
Uh,
yeah. And so I think the main difference is when it comes to Azure and Amazon Web Services, they were the oldest companies in the book. So like AWS, like one thing I really do think everybody else messed up with is AWS has been going on for a while before any of the other competition started up. So before it was only Amazon Web Services that were the only option you had if you wanted to use data centers. But I'm going to tell you something crazy. There's one country that has more data centers than the rest of the world combined.
which one?
The USA. Or you won't. That's how much data centers are in the USA. It has more data centers than all of the rest of the world combined. I'm including China and India in there.
Yeah, I see.
Bro, it's insane. That statistic is. I had to read that 4 times, but I didn't believe it, so I fact checked it, and it's true. The amount of data centers right now in the USA is insane. But how much processing they do and how much money they were spending on AI, you got to understand
What about the China side? That's my first question. How
they
is
have
China
more data centers than
in
China.
that
It's
regard?
insane.
We'll substantiate it to like numbers. Are they at 90% capacity? And what I'm trying to say is China at least at 90% capacity, like because that is literally a bottleneck of AI. And if you're discussing AI, who's winning the AI race, you're gonna have to have a data center to back it.
Yeah,
I know that me and you talked about this way back in 2022. I told you that the pivot from oil and gas to nuclear energy was very, very substantiated on the
uh-huh,
China side.
uh-huh.
And you although disagreed with me, I think we both got some perspective from each other. I was I was saying China was going to have a lot more say back then, and I think they do now with BYD. Although as of recently they've kind of flopped, but a lot of the outsider perspective makes China looks great. Like Speed, Speed.
Yes, like when
He
you went to
literally went
China.
to
Yeah,
China.
I saw it, man. It was
Chongqing,
beautiful.
yeah. I hope I didn't botch that. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
anyone who's Chinese watching this
Yeah,
show.
but like I would say to do with that, you still see like propaganda in that, right? The same way if somebody goes to Singapore,
Exactly.
they're gonna be visiting the monuments, the stuff that's really good, the really well preserved stuff, right? But I
You
think
have a
there's a
buddy there.
yeah,
You
yeah,
told me
yeah,
you had a
yeah, yeah,
conversation with someone who actually is an insider, not an outsider.
who lived in China for over 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, but before we go into
I
that,
think
man,
yeah,
I'm so
okay.
happy you brought the
All right.
nuclear conversation because there's something I want
Yeah.
to say. I've been saying for the last episode 3 things I'm investing in: new energy, land, and fucking drones. Today, one of the biggest companies in the world. All right, search this stock up on CC. It's called CCJ. All right, it's a Canadian company. And they're pretty much the world's biggest producer of uranium. Bro, they jumped up 23%. Yes, yesterday. Let me put that in perspective. It was $100 a
What's
share, roughly a stock. And now I'm talking about a multi-$100 billion company. Now you're probably wondering why?
what caused this? What caused this rapid change? So
Because they're
we know
guess what?
nuclear energy, right?
This isn't good for
Nuclear energy.
Canada. Yes, it isn't good for Canada, but it's really good for the USA. they're now co-owning a nuclear power plant in the USA that's being built, and so that hyped up the news so much on the Canadian side that this stock went flying up. So you see, like, the whatever you want to say about the USA, they're investing in the infrastructure, and so if energy is going to be mass produced in the USA, there's a reason I'm investing in the USA market. I also recently had a conversation with a buddy. Buddy's intelligent, extraordinarily smart, but he said something that I completely disagree with, and he said, I only invest in Canadian stocks. I don't invest in the USA. I thought he was the biggest idiot in the world. Obviously, I say this with love, but man, I'm going to tell you a statistic. Go look at it if you don't believe me. In April, tariffs, threats, stress, breakage on the economy, AI bubble, everything was bubbling up, and the stocks hit a low for the year in April. If you invested any amount of money from April to now, you know how much you'd be up on it?
How much?
30%.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
We're almost 20% up for the year. 15 to 20% up for the year.
What I currently think, and what you just shared with me, and I didn't know the narrative whatsoever.
Mhm.
That's high. That's very disappointing, especially if you go back to our prior video. If you watch that video, we talk about an $800 billion eyesore to anyone who could. Like, that is so. You're telling me that we were articulating the last video that Canada is not providing the legal framework, whatever framework required
Yes.
to make Canada business friendly, and you have this news that just further
Produces, it
sticks
shows the
to
exact. Yeah, because in Donald Trump, for everything he said, when it comes to nuclear, he said, you bring me plans to bring a nuclear power plant, I'll get it approved in 7 days. You don't hear anybody else saying that. You do not hear Justin Trudeau saying that. You don't hear Mark Carney saying that. You hear, I hear a lot from, again, like, even I don't hear Pierre Poilievre. It's easy to say something. Everybody keeps saying, we want more energy. We want energy. Show me how. Show me how you're going to do it. Show me what pathway you're going to make open, right? I want you to become a nuclear entrepreneur. I want you to be like, yo, it's so easy now to make a nuclear power plant. I'm going to go make one. But guess what? You're not living in this world. If you gave me $100 billion, I still have no idea how the hell I would start a business like this, right? And nothing has to be like directly easy, but you need to start promoting. You got to figure out how you're going to get the entrepreneurs here to build these nuclear power plants. Because if you rely on the government to make them, do you remember that one train, like super speed train, they're trying to build in Toronto, and they built.
Oh,
they wasted $1 billion building one concrete box so far. $1 billion to build a concrete slab. That's all that's done because the rest of the money got eaten up by environmentalists.
this is you're further adding more damage to. I don't want to call Carney out. This is the dumbest shit.
Yeah. And again, he's new, right? It might change, but man, I see him making
You're telling me we are not. We're the ones with the resources.
With the
it's the only thing.
Canada
That's
is one of
the
the
only
big
thing
best.
keeping us on the table.
Canada is one of the best producers of uranium there is. So we have the resources.
Look, I love Canada. I like the fact that we have so much freedom in this country, so many privileges. But
they're stupid.
This conversation is just not. It's not gelling with me. I'm almost
angry.
You're telling me there's Toronto's wasting money. There's also this Alberta separatist concept that maybe can shine the light on us somehow. What do you think of becoming a U.S. Becoming as part of the United States?
It's a very interesting conversation, right? But like again, I mentioned my love for.
Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
I met my.
Rephrase the question. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think your nationalistic identity
would
be of higher value to you than your economic sovereignty?
So
that's the
I'll tell you this
value
right now.
Proposition. That's the question.
I'll tell you this right now. Okay, I love Canada, and as I mentioned before, one of my goals in my life is to become prime minister because I truly do believe that I can make a substantial change in the world of Canada. But there's something to remember, and I always like to compare other nations. Canada's sovereignty is never up for question. Like, Canada is strong, but man, the reason why it's built up to the position that Alberta thinks about separating is
I'm your best friend. I'm gonna disagree with you. Canada is no longer strong. We're at 0.5%, as you showed in the prior video.
For the last 20 years.
That empirically is not strong. In just retrospect.
And yes,
I love your nationalistic views, but you need a mixture of logical interpretation and some emotional interpretation.
So I'll give you the logical side. Emotional. I'll give you the logic side. Let's leave the emotional out of it, right? Let me not try to guilt trade you with Canada strong, okay? In Canada by itself, if you're not looking at the USA, it has the most amount of resources in the entire world. It has the third largest oil reserves in the entire world. It has oceans to every direction of it. It has a huge, vast variety of lumber, of steel, of natural resources that you could use. Canada, if it was run properly, like a proper business, and again, it's not a business, but if it was run like a proper business, has the ability to
Yes.
be the most successful business in the entire world, even more than the States, because we have more
That's
natural
where
resources.
that's where your argument kind of falls apart.
Mhm.
Keystone XL pipeline. We have the oil and gas.
But this is
It
people
failed.
getting in the way. This is not the
Why
the,
did
the country.
this is your argument's still coherent, but I'm telling
Mhm.
you, I can further express what you're expressing.
Mhm.
And the failure in the Keystone XL pipeline. And now, just objectively, I recently came up, like you literally just said this a second ago. Our uranium is not being preserved. The value is not being preserved for
We're selling
the
it out.
ownership. We are the owners of as a Canadian who owns the uranium. Why the hell are
Are
we
we-
letting it?
and I'll explain.
Its productivity, its value being extracted by the U.S. Like
Uh,
you mentioned two things, and instantly I saw the Keystone XL pipeline
mhm.
failure
But let
and the
me.
uranium now shifting to America.
So okay, let me go over these points because again, I appreciate bringing it up. Remember how I said I want to be prime minister because there's ways if it was run properly that it would work. Canada on paper works. All right, it is when you apply action to it that it's not working. But the reason why we have a separatist movement in Canada, in Alberta especially, is not because Canada is not a great place to be. It's because it's not a great place to be right now because it's being run like garbage. I'll explain it to you. Listen, in France, okay, all right. Yeah, France is the most beautiful city in the entire world. They say the city of love. Correct? That's what they say. I
I
look.
would disagree
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that notion. I don't agree with,
yeah.
but let's go with
Okay,
the
okay.
story.
So, but 10 years ago, you would hear about how beautiful Paris was. It was a city of love. Correct?
Hmm.
All I see from Paris is people lighting dumpsters on fire and throwing it around right now. There's the truth of what it can be and the truth of what's happening right now. But why is that happening, right? Just how in many parts of the world there are many problems. In Canada, our
I
biggest
don't know.
problem. Here,
Listen,
wait. Let me
please,
finish
please.
let me finish the point, and then I'll let you go.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the separation over here in Canada,
Mhm,
especially in Alberta,
mhm,
it's brought to the
mhm.
point because the values that are shared by Albertans are not the same as shared with Canadians. And in Canada, it needs to be an equal opportunity problem. We can't just go with what Ottawa wants all the time, and we can't just go with Alberta wants all the time. But when it's 90% and 99%, here's the answer, and you guys are wrong, it's not going to work. For example, they want to build a pipeline from Alberta to the ocean so that they're able to ship stuff. But another province is getting in the way of that. Why? For selfish interest. None of this is being a socialistic country, which Canada is. It's supposed to be a socialistic democracy. We're supposed to be having free
Mhm.
healthcare. We're supposed to be having all these benefits, but these benefits are coming at too big of a cost, and they're only becoming a big of a cost because our own government is the one hurting us. They're looking for reasons to slow things down. They're looking for reasons to help a select few people make money. And like for example, I was just today watching a podcast from Angry Mortgages. I love Angry Mortgages, by the way. It's a fantastic podcast to listen to. But pretty much, it's a dude in Ontario. He has a big mortgage firm, and he had a very successful Canadian entrepreneur who builds towers. Like he literally builds 30-story, 90-story, 30-story, sorry, not 90-story, 9 to 30-story towers for residential buildings. They build hotels, they build residential parks. And do you know what he said? He said it takes me 18 months to build pretty much a 9-story apartment. Okay, 18 months. You think that's quick, right? But that's from starting of construction to starting of ending. It takes him a whole year and a half to start the process because you need regulations. Let me explain. Some of these regulations were crazy. The first regulation is if you find any arrowheads, all construction has to stop. So if you find any arrowheads or anything, all construction has to stop. And it could not resume for months or maybe even years. Second thing is, let's say you're building it, you have to do this thing called a wind analysis. How the wind will shape around the building so that what the noise level will be. So you have to do a wind analysis. Okay, that's like 10, 20, 30 extra grand on top of everything else. That's going to take months to do. And then do you want to know what the funniest one is? Sunset. You got to figure out how the sunset is going to look on the building for the residents around the building. So this is incredibly crazy in a place that we have no housing and in a place where everybody's still worried about housing, and it still takes you half the entire process to just come up with paperwork. I see your face right now. You're like, yeah, this is the exact reason why Canada's having all these problems. But all these problems are fixable. They have solutions. The solutions need to be applied though. If you again are injured, All right, you can wait for your bone to fix itself, and it's going to come back a little crooked, or you can go to the physician and you can get it fixed properly. And what Canada needs is
I
a good
love
fixing.
I love the optimist in you.
Yeah, you have
And
to
I
be optimistic. Like, what are you going to do? Say Canada's going to fail? It's very easy
none
to say Canada's going to fail. But Ahmed, truthfully, and
there's
I
a
truthfully mean,
mathematical
Mhm,
mathematical
mhm.
mathematical
I'll say one
not
more thing.
mystical. Sorry,
I'm gonna say
I meant
one more thing. This is how I like to phrase it. You're wondering where my optimism comes from, right? Where my happiness, where I
you
thought
have to
ideate.
no you have to be. I
No,
agree
but
with the
I'll
notion of
explain to
optimism.
you one thing. If I were to bring a liberal and a conservative into a room, and we bring you and
Mhm.
bring me, we can all agree on 5 fundamental human rights. Do you think that everybody should be happy and free? Do you think that everybody should have opportunity? Do you think everybody's kids deserve opportunity? Do you think a kid should be killed for no reason? The reason why I'm bringing up these extremes is because it's very easy for somebody who online always looks like they never agree on a topic for to agree on the fundamentals. Which means if we agree on the fundamentals of who we are as a country, who we are as a people, then man, anything's feasible. All these other questions, they're being handled the wrong way. For in a free capitalistic society where we want people to be live free, we want our sovereignty, but we also want to make sure that every person who's coming here has the freedom and education to be able to buy their own place, to be able to be as free as they want. Man, we have to allow it. But the only way to allow it is by building the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is not built. That's why me and you are here sitting today talking about a conversation of why Alberta wants to be a separate country or even join the USA. There's so many benefits to join the USA. I'll explain one. I know here in Calgary, I have 11 rental properties. That's fantastic. Somebody of my age doing that is amazing. And I hear it all the time. And I'm very proud of myself for doing it too. It's something I work really, really hard for. I lost a lot of sleep over. But man, if I was in the USA, I could have guaranteed I would have had 100. And I don't mean that as an ego thing. I just mean how much easier it is in order to get credit for businesses, in order to navigate the market. There's so many avenues. There's literally, I think it's over 100 for every one bank in Canada. There's over 200 banks in the USA. That's an
You've shown
insane.
me. I think you've. There's a video that you might have talked about the opportunities with banks that are available within the
Mhm.
states,
But so,
and
do you know why I'm
you,
optimistic in
you,
that
you
case?
tell it. You're telling me there's just so much opportunity in America and there's
Mhm.
nothing here.
But
That's what it sounds like to me.
that's what I'm saying. Opportunity is not made because we have nothing in our lands. We have everything, but opportunity is being kept from the people. So in Canada, there's so if you rip off the bandage and you actually apply the actual proper ointment that's needed to actually fix the problem, you can fix the problem. There is no reason why the welfare of how the USA has performed over the last 20 years, which guess what, 4 to 5% a year, 2 to 4% for 4 to 5% a year versus 0.5 in the entire time period. The USA over the last 10 years have grown by 20%, while Canada has grown by 0.5. But there's nothing stopping us from recreating what the USA done, or even better. The only thing stopping us is people in power. And Mark Carney is a new government, so we have to yet to see how they grow over the next 10 years. But one thing I can promise you, no matter how bad it gets in Canada, Canada still has the best people. Canada still has the most beautiful landscape in the entire world. Canada has the most opportunity you can get only if we allow it. And that's something like I know I'm going off a tangent, but optimism's there, but the numbers are
Rev,
there too.
Rev, don't get me wrong. I'm a people person first.
Mm-hmm.
I agree in the social contract of mutually benefiting anyone that's in connection to me. I agree with this notion of, but I don't think that I don't think that one part in the world has the most beautiful people, or I don't agree with this notion. I
But
think that
let me rephrase that because
I
you are right on how I say it. Just
when I
one rephrase, please. My apologies. I don't want to cut you off. But what I mean by Canada has the most amazing people is because we have the most diverse group of the most amazing multiculturalism in the entire world. And if we were run properly, and if we did properly, you and me would be sitting here having a very different conversation today. We would be talking about how every other country could emulate Canada versus how Canada can fix itself.
Mhm. I think that what's it called nationalism has been an issue for us, a
Mm-hmm.
substantial issue,
Mm-hmm.
and creating narratives that we all meet together on and bond over has actually been an issue for Canada. I could
Mm-hmm.
articulate that because I've read and looked into this, not on surface level.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've written a university paper on this,
Mm-hmm.
but a couple of years ago.
One of us has dropped
I,
out, and
I
one of them is writing university papers. Very interesting.
oh, but hey, I don't think success is measured by any institutional regard.
Uh-huh.
I don't think institutions represent anything to me in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think I have a nuanced opinion
Yeah.
on who I think has valid information or not.
Uh-huh.
And usually within just simple, straightforward logic,
Mhm.
within normal value distributions, a small proportion of society has the real opinion, the correct opinion,
Mhm.
and usually the majority don't.
Mhm.
Now, the reason I'm going to say this, I'm going to back this with empiricism, so I don't sound like I'm standing on a cloud. I'm standing on firm ground. What I'm trying to imply here.
Mhm.
Students have been going to school consistently over the 20, 40 years,
Mhm.
and there's empirical data that suggests that the job market for these bachelor's degrees are disappearing.
Of course.
I
White
really
that's a
wanted,
lot
I
of white collar
really,
stuff.
I really wanted to dive deeper into this AI thing,
Mhm.
where these jobs have been taken over, and I wanted to ask you a question,
Mhm.
but I feel like the conversation just shifted gears and stuff,
Mhm.
and it became more political, and we shifted less from the economical
Mhm.
side.
I don't think it's
I
political. I
really,
just think economy wise, man. I just think it's economy wise, right? But a part
I,
of the
I I
economy is
love.
political.
I think more people like you, like-minded people like you, are required in society to actually create a um a higher standard of efficacy of political framework.
Mhm.
Something that actually puts business, not the idea of money creation first, but the people who are keen on creating better economic stability for the whole collective.
Mhm.
Like as a result of these entrepreneurial frameworks that you're going to employ through law, pro-entrepreneurial frameworks,
Mhm.
there's butterfly effects for everyone to benefit.
Mhm.
I'm not implying that the money is more important than the people. I'm implying the people are more important than the money.
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
And I think that um, although we're talking economic and political, I think the political side requires a lot more energy allocation from the consensus or the people that
Okay.
people that vote.
Mhm.
And I want more of you I want more of you to be voting. I want more of people like Ravinder who are educated, who have a nuanced understanding to apply themselves in politics.
Mhm.
But I currently am a pessimist,
Mhm.
and I think I oscillate between pessimist and optimist,
Mhm.
because you should be a pessimist in certain scenarios and optimist in certain scenarios, and you got
Mhm.
to know when you have an edge and when you don't have an edge using each one.
Mhm.
And I think within politics, optimism is a game that you should not be playing.
Mhm.
Within politics and reading narrative, I do not agree.
Uh-huh.
Optimism usually ends up in a accumulation of more and more vectors that end up compounding and resulting in
Mhm.
societal restructuring. What do I mean by restructuring? A revolution happens. People disagree. What's currently happening, Raf, and all the data that is being suggested, everything you've mentioned, is that the poor are getting poorer and the rich are continually getting richer. And
Mhm.
this is not a addition, it's not a math equation where you're adding. It's an exponential chart.
Mhm.
And adding AI to the mix and understanding the concept. And let me clarify this. The specialists, the people who front run the data on AI and where it's going, they
Mhm.
create projections, mathematical or logarithmic charts of
Mhm.
their statistical analysis on where AI is going.
Mhm.
They were a 2 to 3x multiple off
Mhm.
on where it was heading.
Yeah.
So the specialists in the room do not understand the magnitude that AI is growing at. And
So.
I think that will reflect in the markets
Mhm.
in its value. And that's why Amazon Web Services, and I know that I'm taking it back to the economic basis because I think they're correlated. They're definitely correlated.
Uh-huh.
I think the reason that the value proposition is a logical move and you shouldn't sell your Amazon Web Services is because working within the financial constraints of capitalism in America,
Mhm.
you have to get rid of people and you have to put AI where AI can do the job for cheaper.
Mhm.
Canada is a perfect example of this, but not on the same not on the same way. A lot of the people that are working in Toronto,
Mhm.
I've saw data analytics on what I'm trying to express here. People that work in Toronto are working from outside of Toronto.
Uh-huh.
They're hiring across borders for cheaper rev.
Mhm.
So what I think the political issue is far too great of a mountain, and honestly, I feel like it's once things start to go wrong, they
Mhm.
exponentially start to go wrong.
Mhm.
I don't even I look at things from a globalist perspective, and I think even America the president is not working within the best interest of the people. And I will say this again.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to decrease the dollar. I could be wrong, and you got the comments are there.
Mm-hmm.
The date we're going to post this on a certain date. He's going to destroy the value of the dollar,
Mm-hmm.
increase exports. He's not going to rely on Canada's trades anymore. He's showing you right now with this uranium trade that he's going to make whatever Canada has to offer in resources as his territory.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done this. BlackRock has also done this, I think, with a trading port of some sort. If
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Or the
I'm not
trading
sure.
port. Yes, there was a trading port the Chinese owned that BlackRock took over.
That's
But
exactly what.
I want the viewership to understand this is why I love Ahmed, and I think this is why me and him go so well together. Every single thing that we can come out nuance, we always have a very, very good agreement with and a very good discussion with. So I love it, and I appreciate you trying to bring us on track. From two people with ADHD, it's a very solid way for you to bring it on track. Now, I want to hit your points on something that I want you to understand, so I can make you into an optimist, like myself, that I truly do believe. So first, Ahmed, Canada is not always been. We've started here and we've continuously grown down. We have not been in that path. That if you look at the actual
We're
pathway,
200 years old or some shit.
yeah,
200
which
years.
is it's not a long time, but it's also a great long time. A 90-year-old man, I would say, is very wise. And so we've been as a country, we've been in a lot of places together.
But I will add to that:
Yeah.
a man who stands on the shoulders of giants is going to be a lot wiser.
Yeah, 100%.
You know
And
what I'm
so,
saying?
yeah, and you know what I'm going to say? Very importantly, November 11th is coming. November 11th is coming, and it's actually my favorite holiday. Not a holiday, but it's my favorite day. It's Remembrance Day, and we're gonna make a podcast about it because I'm a true big believer on thanking the people who you never know their names, but the people who stood for you, for us to be able to be in the position we are in today. But going on the backs of something, and the reason why I brought that up is this: during 2014, 2012, 13, you were not worried about the economics of the world. Why? Because Canada had the strongest middle class in the entire world. It was a slope and then it went up. Stephen Harper did some really solid stuff. Now, I know a lot of people really hated him for his immigration stance, and I'm not agreeing with all of his political ideologies either, right? Like I mentioned before, I'm not a conservative, I'm not a liberal. I'm very much in the middle. I'm very much at choosing the best ideas for that time. But immigration is the fundamentals of almost every economy, especially if you're growing. We recently talked that the USA is now the third largest country in the entire world. That's insane. But it's because of the diverse amount of cultures that have come into it. Canada is very much in a similar position. It has not always been down a slope. It has recently been down a slope, yes. And every country has their ups and downs. But the only way to transform a country is it's been done before. After 2008 recession, although the recession here in Canada was not anywhere near as the bad in the USA, same thing with the 2000 recession, because we had a lot stronger banking industry than the USA does, even though we have so much lower banks. But because of all of our processes are a lot harder to go through. Canada grew very well, the strongest middle class in the entire world, and that's not just statements, those are actual facts. People had jobs. I remember obviously I was only 14, 15 when this was happening, but after a short period of time, now we're looking at probably some of the worst that we've ever lived in Canada's history. But just like how the operations and ways to make that even better, same implications can be added now so that we can grow at a better economy. Now, obviously, stuff today is very different. AI, for example. Now, I love the point that you're bringing up about AI and people going to school and there's less and less jobs available. It is very true. This is not a die case. We can't hear and lie to ourselves and say over the next 50 years, all the jobs will stay the same. Right? And I'm sure from anybody who's listening to this podcast up to this far, you've heard the analogies that the train tracks got built, right? The industrialization happened and people lost jobs, but people gained a lot more jobs. And stuff like that will happen too. But let's put it onto a nuanced answer. Yes, AI is going to take your jobs. The only reason why college tuition is so expensive in the first place, though, is not because of AI. It's because people made it into a business to hand out loans. And the more loans you can get when you don't have to pay off right off the bat, guess what they do? They just increase tuition. Tuition. If you could be an investor, man, be an investor into college's tuition. Because guess what? Every year you're going up by 5-10%. You're just making so much money.
The largest,
yeah,
Rav, the largest debt bubble is
student loans. Yeah, and so we can talk about AI, but there's other fundamental problems over there with student. And now education, when it comes down to it, man, the more educated your country is, doesn't always mean the better it is, because there's wrong education and right education. I'm not here to say what the right and wrong is, but what I'm here to say is this: the more knowledgeable a person, the better they truthfully are, and that doesn't mean knowledgeable in I have a master's degree in in gender studies. I'm not speaking of something like that. And so I have a master's degrees in chess, nothing like that. I'm talking about the more you learn about life, the more mathematics you learn, the more fundamentals you learn how to live your life, how to be a better human. All these are great components of a great life. And university needs to dial in on what these importance are, and they also going to get cheaper, right? And there's laws and ways that you're able to do this to make that happen.
So
AI will.
AI from I need to mention this for you.
Mhm.
And it fits right in. It just I can't have this conversation go on without
Yeah,
mentioning
yeah,
this.
go for it.
I do not intend to cut you off.
No,
I
no,
just
no.
do not want us to
Yeah, yeah. Forget
push
something.
further away.
Uh-huh.
So they've tested AI within the
Mhm.
context of education, and I know that you're not talking on exactly this, but they were able to replicate a 3x multiple on a student. Each student within an AI infused education system has 3 times the standard of efficacy of understanding subjects
Mhm.
using AI. So we're talking about what you're saying resonates with me because you're operating on a time constraint.
Mhm.
And just what you're telling the users. You have an old system that told you that, hey, you're 18 years old, you don't have an identity. We'll give you student loans and you get a really nice identity called
Uh-huh.
Bachelor of Arts, and I don't know anything else about my
Uh-huh.
life
Uh-huh.
other than arts.
And I
And
spent
I
80
can't
grand on it.
apply anywhere.
Yeah, I spent 80
Yeah,
grand.
it's a huge bubble, right? It's
Yeah, of
like the
course.
biggest bubble ever. But you got to operate within the context of time. You're limited on time. AI
Mhm.
is going to the time horizon of AI is not calculatable by the specialists, and you have to operate on Ravinder's thesis.
But let me explain this portion because what you're saying is a very good point. But one thing to understand is as AI advances, it's going to advance education as well. For example, only a few years ago did online courses and online information become widespread. For example, like this podcast. Not only are we crazy, crazy Forbes billionaires, but we are able to listen to some of the smartest minds in the entire world, and we can make our own educated decisions from there. We learn from there. I didn't read a single book until after high school and me dropping out of university to pursue business. I didn't read a single book. And all my friends who did business, guess what? They're not creating businesses like I am, right? Some of them have jobs, some of them have entrepreneurship ideas, but not all of them are just as successful as I am. I'm not saying that it's Kate. What I'm saying is education was never the goal. I don't believe education was the intended goal of just becoming rich. The thing is this. Let's imagine a world 50 years in the future where AI is so advanced.
I really want to reiterate what you just said.
Yeah, but let's just
If you're working from a results based orientation
mhm.
where you want the best result, education is not a good idea.
Exactly. And now, but here's the
Self
other.
education is, but
Exactly,
yeah,
self education is because man, the moment you you start thinking you're perfect, and you don't start oiling up your joints, you don't start oiling up your brains. Like, bro, you're not gonna
yeah.
get anything. But I'll explain to you. I'll explain the one concept that I really really love. Imagine 50 years from now, when we have an even better Canada, because I'm gonna be prime minister and you're gonna be my man in charge. But listen, let's say Canada is really really good, and we're able to implement AI. I have a question. One way I love to do it. Imagine schooling system that's different. Right now we have thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of teachers. I love these teachers. I love teachers growing up. Obviously, they've taught me a lot. Even though I didn't do too well in school, I still loved my teachers. They gave me such a great time. And now imagine if Elon Musk was teaching about engineering. Imagine where Albert Einstein was teaching you about black holes. Imagine a world where Stephen Hawking was teaching you about this. With AI, sorry guys, I'm having just a couple business calls, but with AI, all of this is feasible. Where we have the best minds at a certain subject teaching everybody, and with AI that never gets tired, that never gets upset, that knows every single technique to teach every single mathematical formula from every different perspective to see which one you understand the most. Man, that's going to educate our economy, educate our people way more than any education you can get from paying this amount of tuition, right? So who knows how education is going to be 50 years from now or 100 years from now? The main thing I want to alliterate is this: self-education is the most important. It's not just the education you get from your degree. And again, companies also know this as well, right? Some of the best coders I know in my life don't even have a degree, and I can guarantee you in 10 years the best coders I know are going to be the AIs. They're not going to be you and me, right? So education doesn't mean anything to do with that. But education has a large variety of things. So like just saying it into general is there are so many ways, there's so many problems that come with AI. There's so many solutions as well. And the worst thing we can do today is pretend like, hey, it's not going to exist, buddy. You should not become an engineer today because it's a thing. No, you should do an engineer, but we
No,
should find ways to make the educational system better than it is today. It's not a fault of like imagine technology that's so good that's coming out that doctors like, oh my god, I can't do surgery anymore. That's an amazing thing because that means what the waiting time in Canada to get a knee surgery, what is it, 9 months, and now you can do it in a matter of days because what is it, computers can do it every second of the every part of the day, and you just gotta, and the only thing
Have,
you're led to is the amount of computers you have. Yeah.
have you heard what Elon Musk talks about in regards to this notion, this idea?
No, what?
He talks about um the future of AI and how the implied effect of AI would be the economy no longer functions as it used to because there's an abundance of resource. There's an abundance of everything. And so what he literally highlights the problem, the bottleneck here, is the concept of finding meaning in life.
But and I've heard this as
Yes,
well.
this is
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
finding
So
meaning in life,
build on
yeah,
that from there.
finding meaning in life was never part of being a job. To be honest, it was never the case, right? Identity becomes like that, especially with immigrants,
Mhm,
immigrants who all you do is see your parents work all the time. That's why that's how my story was, right? But
mhm.
job is being educated for a job is not the end all be all path. We should be happy about this because it's taking this many generations of humans to get to this position, and it will take the next generation of humans from us to find meaning in life without AI. And there's so much meaning, man. AI at this point in time is not smart as us in terms of regurgitating knowledge. It's very smart, but in terms of making knowledge, it can't tell you how you're going to get into space and do this that we've never done before. It can only build on what we know, right? The truth of the matter is, one day that AI will come that will know everything. That'll help us in this case, but that's up to the individual to figure that out. But I can tell you one thing: that is not going to fix our economy. That is not going to fix the problems that we're facing today. And until I have a solution where AI is even better than me at being a prime minister, I will happily put aside and find and allow that to help us find this meaning, right? But at what we know today, what we have today, the only thing we can work on is with our left and right hand. And I did that completely in the wrong order, but what's in front of us. And let's fix that problem today. So I've seen economies come from worse. I've seen how Dubai was built in over just a few decades, right? If that level of freedom, that level of money, that level of economy is available, bro. Why can't we create that stuff? Why can't we have skyscrapers that touch the ceilings? We can do
I
it.
really like that notion.
Uh-huh. But
You're suggesting that you work with what's in front of you.
yeah, yeah,
But continue. You're going
yeah,
to say something. Yeah.
exactly right. You can only build on what's on the ground. But man, I'm telling you, it might seem like such a long shot, but optimism
Yeah.
really just show me that what I'm asking isn't impossible. And if there's even a probability chance that it can happen, well, who am I to say I cannot do it? Right? I know this today we were everywhere at the podcast, right? But man, the truth
Mhm,
belief in life, Ahmed, and I know you have it as well. Undying optimism. Why do you go to the gym every day?
mhm.
You're literally one of the strongest
Uh,
people I know. Why do you go to the gym every day? You're
I
not
think
trying to
one of
be
the
a
examples that
powerlifter.
the
Helps you find
I
meaning.
love this notion, and I definitely used it in the gym. But I feel like what Rav is highlighting here is work with what's been given to you. Worry about stuff that's within your controllable life, right?
Man,
Work
I
with
love
what's
this
in between your hands.
podcast. Just talk about anything.
You so and you have to be very analytical and sharp because the micro affects the macro. So the very small things that you build, the very small things that you think about, even when you go to sleep, your subconscious stays awake and works on these ideas. One of the things I read in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and I think the viewer should read this book. This
A
book
very
is
amazing book.
um, if you agree with the notions that we talk about, if you like to think about the probabilities that exist within contemporary news and how that reflects on all sorts of narratives, right? Whether your thesis agrees with us or doesn't, or you're building your own theses. Think and Grow Rich got me to think about how when you're at rest, you could actually emulate more of the change makers, like Mark Cuban. They call them disruptors.
Hmm.
And I think, bringing Elon Musk back into the conversation, what you mentioned earlier, he is always talking about topics that are hard to understand if you sit with the societal consensus.
Hmm.
What do I mean by that? When he started talking about AI, it was 2022.
Hmm.
He was saying it's the most dangerous thing on the planet,
Hmm.
and as he's saying this stuff, he's building his own AI infrastructure.
Yeah.
And right now, all his companies, there's a thesis on it online, and I agree. I to a certain degree agree. He wants to turn us. And Rav, we've had these conversations, and I think that you should speak more on this, and I think we should dial it down on the YouTube video
For
that
the
we talk
next
about.
episode.
Getting from phase 1 society to phase 2 society to
Yeah.
phase 3 society,
Mhm.
a multi-planetary existence, and
Mhm.
and there's so much notions of a meaning of life and so on and so forth. I have a love-hate relationship with Elon Musk's perception on what we should and shouldn't do.
Mhm.
I don't really like everything he's up to. I have my own personal inclinations of what he's thinking, and I'd like to share with the users, but due to our time restriction, I
Man, we're at
think
55 minutes, man. Fantastic episode.
we
It felt like
please
we were
hit
only 10 minutes
a
more.
like. I
But all right,
really did. I
guys.
enjoyed it.
All right, guys. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for tuning in. All right, why don't you give us a famous pose?
Boom.
All right,
The
guys.
guns. Get the guns in there.
Buddy, get the guns in there. Get the guns in there. All right. These are Canadian built
Oh.
beef, Canadian built muscle, Canadian built muscle.
Wait. You might get tariffed on those.
Oh, maybe 10% game's gone. Awesome. All right. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll talk next on the next episode. Literally
Like
tomorrow.
and subscribe.
100%. We got
Yes.
2 subscribers, man. You guys are fantastic. All right. Let's get to the $1 million play button in like what? Let's give us a time frame of 2 weeks. Think it's feasible? Ahmed's only in this for the money, guys. By the way, right? If he's not getting paid, he's not gonna
No.
come back.
No, money's secondary, brother.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
I really want to build a community where I feel like I'm actually socializing with Mother Nature's extensive family.
Before this, we were fully into depression, so now we're just trying to figure out how to get out of it.
The internet is like a nervous system.
Uh-huh.
It makes you connect with all of your family members. So subscribe because you're
Fantastic.
family.
Oh, 100%. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.